episode of the Odds DeFi Community Podcast. My name is Shahirah. I'm co-founder of Finch and venture partner at Skalata Ventures. And joining me today is the wonderful Danielle Marie from Saltera, a Web3 registered trading organization and also founder of She's Blockchain Savvy and All Things Blockchain. Welcome, Danielle.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. We'll dive right in. We like to start these interviews with a bit of background on yourself, how you got into Web3 and your current role at Saltera.
Well, yeah, there's a very long story on how I got started, but the short version is I knew that I wanted to get into the rat race of the 9 to 5. I'd been in hospitality for at that time about 15 years. And I started an online network marketing business and I was learning all these things. And the guy that I was in business with introduced me to Bitcoin. I watched Banking on Bitcoin, which I don't even know if it's still on Netflix. But when I watched it, I was just like, I knew that it was more than Bitcoin. And I started to learn about the technology. And I don't come from a tech background. And I just went down this rabbit hole. I went to all the meetups, anything that I could to learn. I thought the bear market, I got in at the end of 2017. So it was like kind of end of that bull market. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to become like, a crypto millionaire. And then surely, 2018, I was like, oh, what's happened here? But I was still in, but I was 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I didn't sell any crypto, but I didn't buy any more, which was one of my biggest mistakes. But end of 2019, I just saw there's a massive opportunity. I knew I wanted to work in this space, and I met Nathan from Blockchain Collective, who are the original curators of the accredited blockchain courses that we deliver here at Saltera. And I'm like, I don't know what I want to do, but I just know I want to be in this space. And so I found out about these accredited blockchain courses, and I just knew with my background of training, like management and training and coaching, and I've been a personal trainer and I taught Zumba and I was a lead staff trainer and developer for a large corporate company back home. I was like, well, I'm good at training. Why don't I, do these courses and then I can help these beginners, because it takes on average 5 to 7 years to become an expert in this space. So I started studying. I was the first international student to enroll in the courses because I'm originally from Canada, if anyone can hear my accent. And I just went on a mission. And since then, I've been the first female and international student to complete both the diploma and the advanced diploma, and went in with the intention of becoming a trainer. And so now I'm really, proud of kind of transitioning from this non-tech background, from hospitality. And I had so many I don't know what the word is, but like non-believers in the beginning. And I was just like, well, just because I don't come from a tech background doesn't mean that I can't learn the basics and help teach. And one of the things I find with the non-tech background is we always find these analogies or these ways to help people understand it. And I was like, well, that's my gift. And then alongside that, I realized, and that's when I founded She Was Blockchain Savvy, which was it's still a brand. It's kind of like my little hobby business, and it's just about bringing more women into the space. And then I was like, okay, well, I want to help women, but I also want to help like everyone. And so I started All Things Blockchain, which is this nonprofit association to create free educational and networking events. And I knew that what All Things Blockchain was going to be my vehicle, because I'm good at community organizing, I'm good at event organizing, I've been doing it for 20 years. So why don't I do that while I'm, getting my qualifications? So I simultaneously built the community. It's primarily in Brisbane at the moment, but I'm very excited. We can talk about more later, but we're going national this year. And so I started with the skill sets that I had, and I was actually just at an event. It was a women in tech event here in the Gold Coast, and we were talking about how when people think about tech or Web3 or coming into the space, what we want to help is educate them. Like, let's look at your current skill set and how that can transition into different roles that are in the space. So that's what I did. I just looked at, okay, these are my current skill sets. I'm going to continue studying. And then, so now I've taught for various RTOs, including like TAFE Queensland. But I really am passionate about education and delivering quality education. So Saltera headhunted me and gave me this opportunity to come over and create Saltera Web3, where we can really make kind of custom learning experiences, whether that is, just for individuals or for organizations. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that is quite the introduction. No, and what I love most about it is that you are a leading example of someone who perhaps comes from an unconventional background, like everyone does at their start of the Web3 journey, and you are living, breathing that story and evidence that, you know, people who do start can build very successful, flourishing careers and passions from what started out to be, you know, completely new. So tell us more about Saltera. How did Saltera come about? What's their vision and mission at the company? And in your opinion, just given that you've worked with lots of different, you know, organizations in the education space as it relates to blockchain, where does Saltera differ? What are they doing uniquely in the market?
So Saltera originally, it's been an RTO that's been around since 1999, a private RTO. And for those that are listening, they're like, what's an RTO? So TAFE Queensland is, or not TAFE Queensland. I'm so used to saying TAFE Queensland, but TAFE in general is probably the largest RTO, but it's government funded. So that's why people mostly know TAFE. But we're a private RTO. And they identify, so they've been in supply chain logistics, warehouse training since 1999. And then they obviously heard about blockchain and they're like, okay, well, you know, they started kind of like learning a little bit about it. And they're like, okay, well, this technology, and not just blockchain, we teach everything, you know, machine learning, AI, IoT devices. But they're like, okay, well, clearly this technology is going to disrupt the industry where we're already doing training. And yeah, they reached out to me and they were like, okay, would you be interested in coming across? And at that time I was working with TAFE, and, you know, it was really exciting that, you know, these government programs such as TAFE had bring on these, you know, these exciting emerging forces. But what is different with TAFE, with Saltera, is that we can customize our programs particularly. So, you know, I meet a client and I'm like, hey, what's your key objective? And when I say a client, we're primarily more focused on B2B, but we have a lot of you know, B2C students that come to me and I'm like, hey, what's your primary objective? Now, a lot of our students actually have a project and they build their business model, their proof of concept, and we basically help them understand how they're going to implement that technology. But large organizations might be like, oh, well, this is what we want. We want to retain staff, or we want to upskill our leadership, or we want, you know, them to be starting to think critically on how we're going to innovate within our company. So the difference between Saltera and say some of the other training providers that offer the same, you know, diploma or advanced diploma of applied blockchain is we can customize the learning experience. And we've done things from, you know, running, we have a micro skill set, which is like the first 3 units of the advanced diploma. And we had a client, it was face-to-face. I delivered it and it was so beautiful. They had brought in a few different departments in, and we mixed them up and we put them into teams. And the organization was like, not only the learning, but the energy and the excitement that it brought, and how these two, like all these different departments were working together to start thinking about the problems that are currently in their organization and how they can implement emerging technologies, you know, such as blockchain, AI, IoT devices to solve some of these problems. So I love the fact that we can customize that training program. And I'd say that's the primary difference between a private RTO and say something like TAFE, where it's very structured. You know, you got your enrollment dates, and I'll work with the student. So like if you came to me and you enrolled in the micro skill set, I've designed it for it to be done in 4.5 months, but you're like, you know what, I work full time and I've got a family. I'll work with you to design a custom study plan, and I'll try to hold you accountable for that. But if life gets in the way, as it most usually does, that's fine. You know, if you're studying with, say, like a university or say something like TAFE, it's very structured. If you don't hand in your assessments by the due date, then you've got to re-enroll. So I'd say that's probably the massive kind of primary difference, is that customizing the experience before goals.
Which I think is so important today, just given everyone's conflicting priorities, and most times you're starting out learning about Web3 on the side as a side hobby. And so unless you're taking the leap to really invest and commit to formal education, it often is, you know, learning in the spare time that we have. a question on the organizations, I guess, for people listening who may be working in companies that are starting to talk about educating their teams and departments. Two questions. One is, what is the level of understanding that's required to start? Because I imagine that varies within an organization. And two, what are the kinds of outputs or I guess businesses that have come through? What are some of the tangible things that you've seen them be able to deliver as a result of a training program?
So the first question is, this is where we sit down with the organization and get clear on what they need. And so we've actually customized, we have even just something really simple, like a lunch and learn. Well, I'll go in and it's actually this like kind of interactive workshop where we just teach them the very basics of like what's Web 2, 1, 2, and 3, the history, and then give basically showcase all these different examples of how these big mainstream companies. And it's so exciting for me because when I started my studies, there was no examples of how Nike or Starbucks were using the technology. So we give them these opportunities to think about, okay, well, these are how these companies are using it. And then we break them and they go and brainstorm. That's just like a short little workshop, like a little teaser. Then we have like a full day workshop for those companies that are unsure. Okay, do we really want to invest, or, is this something that we need? To our micro skill set, which is like, the first few units, to we've also launched a new product, a Cert for Leadership and Management around innovation. So it's like about upskilling their leaders, but using critical thinking. So they basically learn the foundations of blockchain and they build a blockchain business model. And so with particular clients, we would work around, okay, well, what's your kind of core objective? So it really, we can service from complete beginners to kind of more intermediate to advanced. It's really about sitting down with the client. Now I think I forgot the second question.
No, that's fine. I guess maybe examples of businesses, if you can mention any by name, or if not, just kind of the types of projects that they've been able to deliver on. And then I might also just couple that on the individual side, just given your work with, she's blockchain savvy and all things blockchain. What have individuals been able to do with the learning, and what are some of the cool things that they've gone on to pursue as a result of that?
So I've got two, because they're like, my little kind of pride and joys. Like, working with big organizations, like I said to you, I'm not going to mention any names because, it was a little bit of a kind of a private kind of agreement. But when I saw how the collaboration between these different departments, like that was really kind of exciting. And I asked them at the end, I was like, what have you found the most value? So for the owners of the business, they had all of these innovative ideas that were coming from their team on how to improve systems and processes, or create new revenue streams, or how they're going to engage their customers. But what the employees liked about it was that they were connecting with other people in other departments. So that was super cool. But I'd say I have two in terms of individual. I had a lady that came to me. This is probably through She's Blockchain Savvy, and it's my true vision of what I really want to do and achieve more of. But she came to me, she did my free crypto course. Then while she was doing that, she learned about blockchain, and then she did the Diploma blockchain, and she's now doing an internship with me and is working to becoming one of our trainers. So like, that's super exciting, from like a free crypto course to now becoming a blockchain educator. So like, I think that's fantastic. And then the second one is a current student that I have, is, very successful businessman. He's been in the industry for 20 years in like the geotech space. So he's building out this business model around that space. But I've watched him flourish and transition into being like, do you know what? He's like, that's great. I could go and try to solve that problem. He's like, but what a lot of businesses need right now is just consulting and education, and like how we're going to, help these businesses understand. And I was like, great. Because a lot of the times when you start with one intention in the Web3 space, you end up over here, right? Like, you think you're going down this hole, and that's why we call it the rabbit, right? Because you just don't know where you're going to end up. But one of kind of proudest moments is in one of the units, we really go down and talk about, you know, how you're scoping out the project and what are the functional requirements. Because as non-tech people, we need to explain to the developers what we want us to build. And he's come on board. I brought him onto the ATB team as one of our Discord managers, and we're talking about how we're going to do our NFT memberships. And I was like, okay, well, here's one of the functional requirements. Like we want to onboard new people. And I loved, he was bringing in the learnings that I literally was talking to him about previously. And nobody else on the call got it, right? But like, he was like, okay, these are one of the functional requirements that we need, and this is how we need to happen. So that just warms my heart when I see like students taking the learnings that they're having, you know, from the program and actually implementing it into like the real world. And I just want to also quickly highlight, I'm doing my bachelor's of information systems. The university is great, but what I love about vocational education is it's about developing skills that you can actually, it's not theory based, like we're actually a project based. So you're going to take what you're learning and like, how can you go and apply that into various aspects of the Web3 space?
Yeah, great. And that probably segues nicely into our next question. I guess if you're in the space, you know how fast it feels, but to the outside world, I guess there's still just a very small percentage of people, you know, in Web3. What do you think it will take to get mainstream learning more about this space, and what do you currently see, or what would you like to see, just having had experience across such a broad range of you know, educational approaches and deliveries? Are we missing anything? What can we be doing better?
I think in terms of mainstream adoption, you know, my job's becoming easier because we have all these large organizations. And I remember, and I really like now when I sit and reflect about Mark Xavier, who's basically my mentor and the one that curated the courses, how visionary he was with some of the content. But like, I was doing these courses 3 years ago and I'd get so frustrated. I'm like, there is no interoperability between blockchains. I don't know what you're talking about. And then now there's all these bridges and there's this interoperability, and it's amazing to sit back and kind of watch it happen. But in terms of main adoption, it's these large companies to come to play. So my job's easier because now I can sit at the front of the room and give people examples. And I remember sitting there thinking, I'm like, okay, well, how could this technology be used? You know, and you have to be kind of really creative and like, and so this is where I feel that I don't know if you've ever done a disc profile, but like teams and dynamic teams, it's like, you know, you got that creative person that's thinking about the ideas, and then you've got someone. So I ask a lot of probing questions to my students so that we can, you know, think about how we're going to use these technologies. So I think in terms of mainstream adoption, I think we're already on the way by having these large companies. Also, that, you know, we're the 1% of the world that are like, yes, I believe. The rest of the world, I'm not sure. So when they start seeing these big brands come into play, they trust it a little bit more. What could we do differently? I think that organizations just need to be open to investing in training and development, and just offering learning opportunities rather than always focusing on the immediate. What I've experienced is these traditional Web2 businesses, they want to say, okay, well, I've invested this much money. What's my ROI? And like, how can I measure that ROI? And what I think that they're missing out on that opportunity is that one really creative idea could potentially disrupt an industry or create an entire new revenue stream, and you can't track it. You know, it's not one of those things that you can be like, oh, okay, well, we had 20 people go to this workshop and we spent $5,000 on, you know, sending 20 people to this workshop for the day. How did we get money? You can't really kind of track it. And I think
in the process rather than.
I think the Web2 space is unsure because we've come from this like industry of like, okay, well, this is what I invest, this is what I get out. So it's a little bit harder for them to determine if it was a good investment or not. So I think that they should just be a little bit more risky and like have, you know, if you think of it as an investment portfolio, we'll do the same with your training and development. So, okay, well, here we go. We've got 20% for more risky training and development. We're not actually sure if anything's going to come out of it. Let's get somebody in to teach our entire, and we have 1,000 employees. Let's teach them about NFTs. Nothing might come out of it, but something might.
Yeah, great. That's such a great insight. Danielle, finally, as a community podcast, we're always keen to hear what community means to you. And obviously, wearing so many different hats in the space, how have you gone about building really strong communities?
So I think I had a bit of a confirmation with All Things Blockchain. And, when I founded All Things Blockchain, there was a very clear purpose of it. And when I entered in the industry, especially back in 2018 and 2019, all of the meetups were very, specific in terms of what their narrative was that they wanted to deliver. So if it was a Bitcoin Cash meetup, and I'm so glad that the Bitcoin Cash versus Bitcoin, I don't know, they've all kind of gone away. But it was like you went to a meetup and it was like trying to brainwash you about Bitcoin Cash, or you'd go and they would promote it as like a, crypto for beginners, but it was really just some dude at the front of the room trying to get you to sign up for his, his training program. So it was always there. It was always a motive. And what I found was that it was actually giving the industry a bad reputation, because these beginners, these new people would come to the space and then they would have a bad experience. So I reached out to a couple of people and I said, hey, listen, I'm good at community organizing. This is when I started my studies. I was like, but I don't have all the knowledge, but I want to create a community that's organized and run by the organization. And DAOs weren't even a thing back then. And so that's why we're a fully nonprofit organization. And it's taken me until this year, the first year everyone was gung-ho, and then the bear market kicked in. And then last year I just kind of found it was just me hitting the pavement. I had a few people helping here and there. And then this year I've got I think we've got about a team of 10. And one of the ladies that we've just brought on, her name's Sarah, because we've never done any socials, we've never done online, everything's been in real life. And I was like, well, we want to kind of go more national, but not necessarily national in organizing in real life events, but we want to tap into the regional communities. How can we build? How can we educate? And our new sponsor, Innovate, up in Brisbane, they've got the infrastructure for us to live stream and do all this stuff. Anyways, I'm going on a tangent, but I said to her, I was like, what's your purpose? And why do you want to join ATB? And she goes, because yours is the first meetup that I've gone to that it felt like it was actually just a meetup for everyone to benefit from. It wasn't, you weren't trying to promote your brand, you weren't trying to do anything. It was, and all of our team, we all have our own projects. And she goes, you could just feel the community feel in the room. It wasn't about you promoting your own company. And so we have this ethos at All Things Blockchain. Brand awareness is okay. Selling, promoting, shilling, not allowed. I love hearing when people come and tell me it's because of your meetup I met this person and now I'm doing this startup project. And so
I can imagine that to be a wonderful feeling, and obviously great validation that you are doing the right thing and you are bringing the right values, I think, to the community, which is really important.
One last thing, because OzDeFi, I remember when I don't even know when Mark reached out to me, but OzDeFi reached out and we're like, yeah, let's work together. Let's do things. We've done our community Christmas party together. It's not about competing. It's about how we work together. We've supported each other from the beginning. And I love that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Danielle. Unfortunately, we've come up to time. And for anyone listening at home who might be working for a company that could benefit from training programs at Saltera and or interested in learning and advancing their personal learning, Danielle, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
I'd say the most active is on LinkedIn.
Thanks again for your time and insights. Appreciate having you on the show. For everyone else, we'll see you in the next episode. Take care for now. Bye.